What an introduction. How fancy, Miss Funmaker. Thanks, Miss Funmaker. Anyway, so today we are focusing on a quick idea about steepness of slope. So let's take a look at some real world examples. Let's say you were about to fall down a cliff. Which cliff would you prefer to fall down? Now, unless you are a huge adventure seeker, I would say that I'd probably prefer to fall down this cliff because it looks like I would injure myself less than if I fell down this really what we call steep cliff. So this one is what we'd consider steep or steeper than this one, which we'll be referring to as less steep. I've never really come up with a good opposite of steep. I think less steep is as best as we can be. Some people said shallow, but shallow I feel like relates to water. So anyways, we'll have steeper and less steep. And although these are bumpy lines, we're going to be looking more at linear equations. So we can kind of pretend those were a straight line. So maybe this slope, as an example, if we were to actually count it, is like up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2, roughly. Up 1 over 2. Let's say that's our slope. Remember, M could stand for slope. Versus this one, maybe we go like up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1. So this slope is 2 over 1. So let's make a comparison here. Our steeper slope, when we look at our two numbers, is the bigger number. 2 is much bigger than 1/2. The bigger number of slope, the steeper one. Let's take a look if it reverses when it's negative slopes. So let's say that my son Justin is going to go sledding for the first time, and let's say that he's scared. And I'm trying to pick which hill we should go down for his first sled ride this winter, considering that he's scared. Okay, so he's sitting up here on his new little sled, and we're going to go down one of them. Okay, where the question is which one is steeper, which is also kind of like which one's scarier. I would say that this one would be scarier. And that's going to mean that it's also the steeper one. So that's one way that you can think about it, thinking that scary equals steep. The scarier one to fall down would be the steeper of the two. In terms of what these slopes are, this slope over here looks like it's about down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1. This is a slope of roughly -1, down 1 over 1, versus this is a slope of like down 5 over 1, down 5 over 1, something like that. -5 over 1 versus -1 over 1. So in terms of which one is steeper, the number -5 is steeper than the number -1. Okay, we're going to continue to look for patterns within that. So we're going to be picking out two graphs here, and you're going to be thinking which one is steeper. So what we're seeing here, and we're going to notice this in a lot of examples, is that our graph, our steeper it is. And the scarier ones have slopes further from 0, further from the value of 0. Okay, so let's take a look. I'm going to show you two graphs, and we're going to pick which one is steeper. Okay, so out of these two, which one do we think is steeper? Which one would be scarier to fall down? And I hope you're identifying this one. I'm going to put that one on steeper, this one on less steep, and then compare the two numbers. The number that's further away from 0 is steeper. 1/9 is a smaller value. It's closer to 0. It's less steep. 1 is bigger than 1/9, so this is more steep. Okay, we'll do another set. This example has 0 in it. Okay. We're thinking which one is steeper. Well, look at this one is definitely steeper. So the further from 0, the steeper it is. Look at this, it has no steepness actually. It's definitely less steep. This is as little a steepness as you could possibly have when there's no steepness. But a negative number can still be steep, okay? Let's take a look at the difference between these two and pick which one is steeper. Which one would be scarier to fall down? +9 or -2? I'm thinking it would be scarier to fall down +9. Okay, So we're thinking in terms of the numbers, which one is further from 0? Well, 9 is further from 0 than -2, and that makes it steeper even if we couldn't see the graph. All right. Out of these two, we've got -4 and +1/4. Our steeper one, scarier to fall down, is going to be this one, okay? So sometimes a negative is steeper than a positive. It's just about which one's further from 0. -4 is 4 units away from 0, versus this is only 1/4 of a unit, 1/4 of a unit away from 0. So the further from 0 we are, the steeper we are. Let's try it without getting to look at graphs. Okay, so which is steeper? Only looking at the slopes, keeping in mind that the further you are from 0, the steeper we are. So 19 or 1/2. You want to ask yourself, which one is a number further away from 0? Hopefully you are identifying that that answer is going to be 19. That's pretty far from 0. That's actually a really, really steep slope. Versus this is only a slope of 1/2, up 1/2. That's not a very steep slope. Versus 19 is something almost vertical. Okay, next up, -6 or -8. Yep, the further we are from 0. Okay, so this is 6 away from 0. This is 8 away from 0. This one is steeper. Okay, next up, +1/3 or -3. Gets a little confusing sometimes when we have one positive, one negative, but we need to think, how far away is it from 0? This is 1/3 of a unit from 0. This is 3 away from 0, just in the negative direction. So this one is going to be our steeper option. Sometimes we start to assume that every fraction is always less steep. But if we actually take a moment and figure out, what is 5 divided by 2? Well, 5 divided by 2 is half of 5, or 2.5. So now if we compare it in decimal form, 2.5 versus 2 away from 0, this is actually going to be steeper again. All right, question for you. Which is steeper, -5 or 4? Good job. -5 is further away from 0. This is 5 away from 0. This is 4 away from 0. And we want the further away is the steeper option. All right, how about now? Which is steeper, -2 or -3? 2 away, 3 away. The further it is away, the steeper it is. So -3 is slightly steeper. And last question, which is steeper, 1 or 3/2? Comparing fractions as decimals is sometimes helpful. This is the same thing as 3 split into 2 pieces would be 1.5 each. So when you compare 1 and 1.5, 1.5 is further away from 0. So 3/2 would have been our steeper slope. All right, guys, so this is an idea, the steepness of slope. That's kind of a smaller idea of the unit. We're not planning on spending all day tomorrow going over this. So if you have questions about it, make sure that you ask, and I'm happy to go over any questions you have. Otherwise, we'll probably just review this when it comes time for our test.